Fitting a new SMA connector to the NooElec magmount.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So I've got here the magmount supplied with the NooElec NESDR SMArt. It's not got its one of its original whips on it. This is actually off the magmount that's on top of the radiator, which I've screwed a telescopic which actually goes with this magmount onto it, which for some reason doesn't actually screw onto this magmount. That's not the issue that we're going to be trying to resolve in this video. I'll take this off so I don't poke anything with it. Just screws onto the bottom of there. So just go down there like that. It does come with a couple of smaller whips, one of which is actually similar to that as well as that telescopic. So the problem, if I can bring it close enough to the camera and the camera will focus on it, is this is the SMA connector and there is no pin in the middle. I'm not sure if that's going to focus or not, so I'll try and make it focus. Are you going to focus on that? No, it won't focus on it, but there is no pin in there. Might be able to... No, let's leave it at that. But there is no pin in there. And that means it's not going to make contact. So if I screw it into the SDR down here, which is actually the SDRPlay RSP1B, and it's not going to receive anything. So, fortunately, I went online to Moonraker's website. They have SMA connectors in that fit RG58, which is what's on this, and they are the crimp type. That does mean I've got to cut this one off because this one's also a crimp type. I can't just unscrew it or anything. It does need to be cut off. Does feel a bit loose in there as well. Oh, hang on. I've just managed to pull that off, and well, not much quality control by NooElec there, is there? And this looks like the remains of the pin. Looks like the pin was already there. So we'll push that back on, if it'll go back on. No, that's not going to go back on. So we're going to change it anyway. So I'll put that to one side, and now I've got the plug off. Gives me a clue as to what's supposed to be under there. So I can have a look at that pin as well, but it doesn't look as though it's the right size or anything. I think the important part has actually sheared off. So what I'm going to do with it, cut this off, strip it back, put a new plug on, and also some glue-lined heat shrink, which should help with some waterproofing if I use it outdoors, which is unlikely. So that'll probably get connected straight into the NESDR SMArt, but it will also hopefully give it some reinforcement. So we'll go over to the workbench and then we will start crimping this on. My crimping tool should be in that other room. So I'll pause whilst we go through there. Okay, so I've got the connector. So it comes like this. This is the main connector body. So the pin would go through there. If you can see that, I'm not sure how well you can actually see that. Will it focus on that? Yeah, it kind of focuses on it. So there's a hole in the middle of that connector. Then you'd strip it back so that the braid would then go on the outside of this here, and the dielectric goes in there with the pin, which is quite a tiny piece. I'm going to be careful not to lose it, which is this on the end of the cable. It doesn't look as though the pin needs to have much of the cable stripped off. I think that's going to bottom out pretty quickly. So the first thing I need to do is grab the cable, which I've got in the helping hands, which is slightly off shot, I've noticed. And I'm going to cut that end off, because that's the end of the original cable, although it doesn't look as though it's actually snapped. So I'm going to cut it off anyway. It looks like it's actually just pushed back in, which is not ideal. So I'm going to cut that back. I will need to strip it. I did have some coax strippers somewhere, but I'm not sure what I've done with them. So I'm going to have to probably strip it with the wire strippers that are on the bench, which isn't actually ideal for this job, especially when I've actually got coax strippers. So I'll just see if I've got those. Well, I've not found my coax strippers, which is a bit annoying because they would have probably done this job better. But I did find a cable stripper, these ones, which are actually designed for stripping Ethernet cables. So not ideal, but stripped down sufficiently to get into the coax. This is RG58. So I've managed to strip it back, but whether it's gone through it has actually. It has actually gone through that, so it's taken quite a few strands of that off. Actually, it's taken the whole lot off, so I'll have to obviously do that again. And let's see. Let's grab the snips. Yeah, because it's gone through a few strands and I didn't want it to do that. Just going to make the cable a little shorter. Let's try it with these. These are on the... Because like I say, I'd be much better using the actual stripping tool for the coax, but I can't seem to find that. It's got quite wispy looking braid, and it's also got the foil, I've noticed. I think they must have chose this based on signal integrity and signal loss, I'm guessing. They obviously don't want signal being lost in the coax. This is RG58, and it's been used with an SDR that can go up to, I think it's about 1.6, 1.7 gigahertz. So I'm going to have to see if that's about the right length for the... What I should have also done at this, before I did that, was I should have put this little metal ferrule on, because I'm going to need that to crimp it. And also, I'm going to put some adhesive lined heat shrink on that. So I'll just pause whilst I grab that. Okay, so this is the adhesive lined heat shrink that I've chosen. It should be about the right diameter to fit that. And the reason why I've chosen adhesive lined heat shrink rather than the normal heat shrink is because it's got the adhesive in it, and therefore it should keep moisture and any other contaminants out. Well, that's the theory anyway, but I'm probably not going to use this outdoors in the rain anyway because it's getting connected to SDRs. So I'm just going to push that over. It's a bit of a snug fit, but it does go over. Guys, I just got interrupted by a phone call for the best part of an hour. That was my girlfriend, so I had to take the call. So I've got the connector crimped on, and I will explain the process. I've got the heat shrink on there as well. It turns out the heat shrink's actually slightly too small for that, but that's not too much of a problem. I'll shrink it down anyway. So the process involved putting the center pin onto the end of the coax. There's the center pin in the connector there. I'll just have to see if we can focus on that. I'm not sure we can. The center pin, that went onto the inner conductor of the coaxial cable. I couldn't crimp that on, so I tinned the inner conductor with some solder and then soldered it on. That seems to have worked. Pushed it through the housing until it wouldn't go through any further and it stopped in more or less the right place. Then slide this metal sleeve here, which is now crimped, over that, and I used on this crimping tool this position here. This is marked 213 or 0.213. I'm guessing that's what that says. And that worked on that connector, no problem at all. The heat shrink, I'm just going to leave it like this for now because it doesn't need to be done for the rest of the tests. I'll do that off camera later. So the first test I need to do is test for continuity. So I'm going to use this Parkside multimeter. This one has the benefit of actually having a backlight as well, if I can get it to play ball. So let's check that that's all visible. So what I'm looking for is checking to make sure there's no short circuits, which is actually quite difficult. So outer to outer, that's working. The backlight's gone off, but we're listening for the beep anyway. Okay, like I say, it's difficult to get into the center pin without touching the side, but it's looking like there's no short circuit there. So now I've got to check that the other end isn't open circuit, as in it's continuity all the way through. So if I grab the other end of the mag mount, which is this end, not sure it's going to focus on that. I'll just bring it down to where it probably would be. If I bring it back around onto the camera, I put one of the test prods onto that and just meter it from the outside. It's still not showing a short circuit. Meter from the center pin. I'm getting continuity. Now, if I was to meter from the outer to the magnet on the bottom, which is that, there's no cover on this one at the moment. I'm going to have to come up with something. It should, if I can get contact on the test probes on the end, because the magnet is actually connected to the ground. So we're going to go back into the other room and we're going to connect this to the SDR and see if it actually is working.
Okay, so at the moment I've got the antenna that's on the mag mount on the radiator connected up. So what I can do is because we're on PMR 446 channel 1, so I can demonstrate that with just a PMR 446 radio that just so happened to be here. And I should be able to change the channel on that because it is on 5. Try that. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Well, you won't hear that loud on the SDR, but testing 1, 2. Yeah, that's fine. So at the moment, well, I'll just knock this radio off because it's making a bit of a racket now. I might have upset locals. So at the moment, it's the antenna that's on the mag mount on the radiator. I'm going to, without knocking the camera too much, grab this whip here and I'll screw that into that mag mount in a moment, but I won't screw it into it right now. So the mag mount in question is actually stuck to the top of the SDRPlay's case, because it is a metal case on this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect our little antenna off there. That should have reduced the noise floor, which it has. So I'm going to show you the NooElec mag mount. So that's the magnet side. That's the side the whip's going to screw onto. And if I screw the mag mount as it is onto here, it should do something, but it probably won't do a lot. So if I screw that onto there. Now the noise has come up a little. It's probably come up to the same degree as it was with that mag mount, so that's fair enough. So that's now connected. So I'm going to screw this whip onto the mag mount now, and I can actually show you that I'm doing that. So I'm just going to grab this. If I screw that onto there, it should do. The noise floor has gone up. So I'd say that's a success, and that's repaired. So I'll just tighten that up. Yeah, I'd say that's a success, and that's actually repaired. I don't think this one will reach over there because, well, for one, the SDR is has the antenna port pointing the wrong way, and I would have to have it up on the top of the desk to make it reach the window. So I will just pause and see if I can put it on the window. Okay, so I've repositioned the SDR so it's at the back of the desk, and the coax cable for the antenna is running out of it, and it's in the same position on the top of the radiator as to where the antenna with the thinner coax was. So I can have a little bit of a tune around. It's probably going to be just picking up loads of interference everywhere, like that. You get this stuff like a 422, which is like electricity meter stuff around here. I believe this is all smart meter data at that. And if you just keep going through, yeah, things all over the place. So it's receiving stuff, including this over here. I have no idea what that is. It looks like probably just noise. Not sure what that is. Probably the same sort of noise as previous. We'll get desensed by my APRS eye gate, and especially the closer to the 2 meter band we get. If I back up a minute, you can see all the DAB transmissions around here. I can actually zoom out a bit so they'll actually should fit the waterfall display. That gives you clues to how wide a DAB transmission is, so it is picking them up. Yes, DAB transmissions are usually pretty wide. In fact, I'm receiving them at all. It's actually kind of interesting. That looks like another one there. And another one there. There's a few of them. I can't identify them by frequency without the frequency charts, but it's fair enough. So we'll just go to... This is usually around about where the pages would be, and they're usually quite a strong signal. Somewhere down here are the pages. There they are. That's your pages there. That'd be a flex pages, and just over here, if they'll play ball and cooperate for me, which they're probably not going to do, is the Parkside pages. So they're all still operating. There you go. So you've got the Parkside pages and things there. Got bits and pieces in here. Then we've got the 2 meter band here, which I'm not hearing anything on the 2 meter band. Not seeing anything up here on the waterfall on the 2 meter band, not even for the local repeater, which is about here, I think. It's usually about there. I'm not hearing it now. It would do that when I'm on camera. So yeah, that's doing its job. I can tune around. And it's working. I'm happy with that. So those crimp connectors are available from Moonraker, but you can get them from other sources as well. But to be honest, you can get them from Moonraker or any source in your country or the UK or wherever, because you're guaranteed to get a quality product. I trust crimp connectors better than soldered on ones, although I did have to solder the centre pin on that, which was a bit annoying, but unfortunately that had to be done. Anyway, if you like this one, there's a thumbs up. If you didn't, there's another one. And yeah, you can subscribe to the channel if you want. So I'll catch you in the next one, which I think is going to be me comparing the difference between a watt and 4 watts. And this mag mount might make an appearance. So I'll catch you in the next one. 7-3 for now.